Yo, there's a certain magic to becoming a One Piece fan, I think. I've never seen another series convert so many people into die-hard fans. It's almost expected that even if somebody goes into One Piece skeptical, they'll come out the other end with a straw hat and a chopper plushie surgically attached to their body. But before we even get to the point of die-hard fandom, we all gotta start somewhere. The funny thing about One Piece fans is a lot of us started out as haters. You probably at some point said to yourself, I'll never dedicate hours of my life to watch 1,000 episodes of anything, especially not this goofy, gooberish nonsense. In fact, a lot of people in this stage are purely watching One Piece out of spite. Many of them come into the series hardcore Naruto glazers trying so hard to prove that One Piece will never reach the heights of peak that is Boruto. You probably don't know much about One Piece aside from Luffy stretches and Zoro uses swords. These fans watch the series very casually. You're probably on your phone during the episode, you're skipping all the openings and endings. And you likely don't have any real feelings towards the series yet, aside from, Zoro's pretty cool. And my favorite kind, the ones that look up, how long does it take for One Piece to get good? Not even realizing how fondly they're gonna look back on these early parts of the story. The groundwork has already been laid. Now, this level comes at different times for different people. For me personally, I didn't give a fuck about One Piece until Baratie. I'm gonna be honest. This is not necessarily the point of no return, but you have gotten more invested in the story. When the Straw Hats have their little side gags and moments, you go from ignoring them to maybe cracking a little smile, maybe even a chuckle. You start to notice little small things about the characters like, wow, Zoro gets lost a lot. You've been hooked, but you're not really invested yet. You probably still don't even know arc names really. You remember the one arc that was on the restaurant boat, the other one they fought the fishmen. Oh yeah, the one with the clown. Right now you're watching One Piece more like a Saturday morning cartoon. It's just goofy and fun, there's not that many stakes. The characters are likable, but you're probably not thinking about it any deeper than that. Sometimes you come across One Piece merch and you think about buying it for a second, but you always stop yourself. But probably the best thing about being at this level is you don't care about spoilers. Somebody could start telling you everything that happens in the arc and you won't even care. You don't have any context for it and it doesn't matter to you anyway. I remember being at this level and everybody was talking about Wano, how good Wano was, how crazy the animation was in Wano. It didn't bother me at all. All it did was make me want to get more into the series. Some people might say this level is the perfect point before you get too invested and One Piece starts to take over your life. Now level 3 is when you really become a true fan. By this point, One Piece has already made you shed a real nigga tear a couple of times. It's at this point One Piece starts to bleed into other parts of your life. Your phone gallery is starting to get filled with a bunch of screenshots and images and memes all revolving around One Piece. There were jokes that you used to laugh at like, oh, One Piece is just for babies, it's just for kids. Now those jokes start to annoy you a little bit. Once you get introduced to the gospel, all the non-believers start to frustrate you. You can't stop talking about One Piece now. One of your friends makes a comment about your One Piece wallpaper, you're going on a whole rant.
What you really want to know, this is Luffy using his dumb fruit. It's a paramecia ability, he got it from Shanks when he was a little kid, he ate it by accident.
Nobody asked, bro. That's right, you started to become one of those. One of those One Piece fans that can just never shut up about One Piece. It's not that bad yet, because you still have other series that you talk about. You know, One Piece isn't even your top one. It's just a series you're really enjoying right now. Yeah, that's what they all say. I like to think that level 4 usually comes around at about Enies Lobby because that's when the lore really starts to open up. So now you've gone from viewing One Piece as a fun little story to now being obsessed with every single little detail you notice. You start to come up with your own theories, but you know it's early on, so you're probably saying things like Crocodile is Luffy's mom or something. Who would believe something so ridiculous like that? You've even started to correct people when they say things that are incorrect.
Actually, Nico Robin's first bounty was 79 million, not 80.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up.
Yeah, now at level 4, you start to annoy people. The old anime that you and your friends used to talk about all the time, you don't even talk about them anymore. You're probably not even keeping up with them week to week because you're so busy binging One Piece. That's one underrated thing about One Piece. It is a great binge. There is no better thing to binge than something with 1,100 episodes. You never run out. And for most people, this is when One Piece starts to affect your social media presence. And there are only two paths, really. You're either going to become a One Piece Twitter user or you're going to become a One Piece Reddit user, depending on what kind of brain damage you want to have. And at first, it's amazing. You finally get to talk about all these theories you have, all your favorite characters, future fights you want to see, and you finally get to talk about it with people that are just as obsessed with it as you are. Because God knows, none of your friends watch One Piece. It's just you. But nothing good lasts forever, right? Level 5 is when people start to think you're a little crazy. You're no longer keeping up with any anime outside of One Piece. One Piece is the only thing you're watching. And anytime anyone near you brings up anime in any capacity, you start talking about how they need to pick up One Piece. You're now like an anime Jehovah's Witness. But instead of going door to door, you're under every Instagram post. You're under every tweet.
You know, I miss fantasy novels.
Well, if you're looking for a good fantasy story, I got one for you. It's called One Piece.
It's been a long time since I've read something with a good mystery.
Well, if you're looking for a series with a good mystery, wait till you hear about One Piece. You'll never find out what that is.
Life lately has just been so depressing and dark. I just don't know if I can do it anymore.
But when I need a little bit of optimism in my life, I just turn on One Piece. Couldn't hurt.
You've lost it. You lost your mind. Now you're going on random rants about how you love Kobe and he's the greatest hero of all time and he's gonna surpass Garp and he has wonderful hair and he's tall and handsome and has a wonderful smile. Just me? Okay. It's gotten to the point where you actively argue with people from other fandoms when they say their series is better than One Piece. In about a year, you've gone from 4 posts to 4,000. You just can't help yourself. And now at least one of your friends has you muted on every social media. By level 6, you are fully settled into the series and fully settled into the fandom. And with that, some of that early excitement starts to fade away. You're no longer a little kid on his first video game. You are now a fully fledged scholar, well versed in the study of One Piece. If somebody asks you some One Piece trivia, you're locked in, you know it all. You could probably tell somebody how many times Usopp has broke his nose over the course of the story. And you've now become more opinionated on the series. There are things that you like, things that you dislike, things you want to see in the future versus things you can do without, and of course, characters and storylines that you just care about more than others, which can only lead to one thing. You will slowly develop an agenda. And regardless of what your agenda is, you're gonna be arguing for your fucking life. There are more casual ones like the Zoro and Sanji arguments. That shit like Crips and Bloods. You gotta pick a side. And even if you don't feel strongly about these things at first, you will when you see the arguments. Like Shanks and Mihawk, you probably never even thought about that shit until you started interacting with other One Piece fans. Now you on Reddit arguing that Shanks is a hockey man. And depending on the characters that you care about, it's at this point that you'll start to get pulled into one of the subgroups within the fandom. Maybe you'll be one of the Marine guys, you and a Kainu Glazer. Maybe you'll be a fan of Blackbeard, which makes you a real nigga. Or you'll be a fan of Mihawk, which makes you a loser. You'll go from arguing with other fandoms about One Piece to arguing with other One Piece fans about One Piece that just happen to like different characters from you. And you know, as crazy as it is, it'll start to feel like home. Level 7 is like One Piece Nirvana, or maybe like One Piece Valhalla, cause you still in the trenches, you still fighting wars every day, but you're at peace with it now. Before you used to get into these arguments and feel frustrated, now it just is what it is. Like, oh, okay, you think Katakuri would one-shot Doflamingo? It is what it is. At this point, you've completely moved away from the anime and only read the manga, aside from certain special episodes. Either because you've caught up to the anime and you can't wait for the week to week, or that pacing has started to rot you from the inside out. One Piece is now a core part of your personality. You regularly tell people that One Piece is one of the greatest things ever made. It's up there with A Song of Ice and Fire and shit. And you have an actual existential crisis every time you think about the fact that One Piece will one day end. You've gotten into buying the merch, you've got physical volumes, you might even have a One Piece tattoo at this point. It's at this point that nostalgia starts to set in. And you look back at earlier points in One Piece like it was the time of your life, even though it was only like 6 months ago. You go back and rewatch entire art. Like maybe you go back and rewatch Marineford. I don't know why you would want to put yourself through that pain again, but I know a lot of people do it. And even waiting for the manga week to week is too much for you. So you've gone from reading the official to reading, you know, scans and stuff. You might even rewatch or reread the story all the way from the beginning just to get that feeling again. Maybe I should do that. Maybe after I do that, I'll be at level 8 and I'll be of a higher intellect. My soul will start flying out of my body and shit like Doctor Strange. But yeah, man, that's all I got for y'all boys today. Let me know what you think about the levels of One Piece fan in the comments below, and what level do you think you're at? And comment Nirvana if you made it to the end. Just confuse all the niggas that didn't make it here. Like the video if you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel. And yeah, man, I'm gone.
I can't forget about